Coming up next on Everyday Angels, Pari Livermore finds out how low-income women improve their lives by learning new business skills. Marilyn Nemzer meets a physician whose surgical inventions and techniques are making incredible advances in medicine. Katherine Panetta visits an organization where wildlife are rescued and nursed back to health. And Constantino explores how a well-rounded education includes an education in the performing arts. It's all coming up now on Everyday Angels.
I'm Constantino. I do this because I meet the people in our community who are the true angels among us.
I'm Katherine Panetta, and I'm a reporter for Everyday Angels because it gives me the opportunity to learn more about the nonprofit organizations in our community.
Everyday Angels helps so many people in the Bay Area. They fill me with hope. And I know once you hear their stories, you're going to feel the same way. A business-savvy CEO, a philanthropist who gives back, a mother who nurtures her family, a woman in many roles. What does it take to be successful in business? And more than that, what does it take for a woman to succeed? I'm Pari Livermore, and this is what Women's Initiative for Self-Employment is teaching hundreds of women, with the help of role models like Linda Hodem.
Despite all of the advances that women have made, women continue to make less than men. In fact, Latina women are making 47 cents on the dollar that white men make. It is essential today, more than ever, as this recession takes hold, prices increase. These women are frankly coming into desperate situations, and they're often the one responsible for all the family financing and children. And today we have a special opportunity to really help propel them into the marketplace during this recession.
The program helped me tremendously, and I think the greatest thing that I took away from the program was the ability to run the business successfully and still use the plan. It wasn't just 10 sheets of paper that I put together. It's actually something that the business lives by and has been surviving by that plan and that kind of roadmap. Because without it, I would have been lost.
Women's Initiative for Self-Employment trains low-income women to start their own businesses. We finance them and help them grow. For every dollar invested in Women's Initiative, there's a $30 economic return within 18 months. That means women are going off of public assistance, they're starting their own businesses, increasing their income, and paying others in the community.
What does Linda personally mean to you?
Linda means so much to Women's Initiative and so much to me personally. Linda has taken me on as a friend. She's become a partner in my business at Women's Initiative. She coaches me and our executive team on how to do our jobs better. She's an expert in organizational development, and she has given substantial amounts of money to Women's Initiative so that we could make our dreams come true of launching a whole new location in Marin and expanding in Oakland.
When I first met her, she was just really warm and not very humble, and that was kind of what drew me to her. And when I was finally introduced to her, and she actually loved what I was wearing, and that's kind of what started the conversation. And I am now making this dress for her, and I am so thrilled about it. I actually went to measure her, and it was just like visiting one of my homies, one of my girlfriends.
Wow.
We hung out for a few minutes, and it was just great.
Well, now, what does she mean to you?
She has built this company that she owns from the ground up, and I am doing the same in my business. And I hope that one day that I will be just as successful.
You've been a woman in a man's world. How difficult has that been? And how have you managed to maintain your femininity and be as successful as you are?
The warehousing and transportation really is predominantly a male industry, and I just love it. I love managing men. And I love my femininity and being a woman. But I really think that being a woman in a man's kind of industry brings a very unique potential. And certainly in the realm of organizational development and with our employees, I think being a woman does bring kind of a different approach to it.
She came into an industry where she didn't know anything about. She learned it from the ground up from day one. You know, her late husband basically said, "Hey Linda, here's this bankrupt trucking company. I just bought the building. Why don't you see if you can go pay the rent and make something out of the business?" And she was able to do that. And I think that, you know, bootstrapping a business, learning something new that you don't know from the ground up, and becoming essentially, you know, 20 years later an industry expert is something that I think everyone should achieve or strive towards in any business that they're trying to be successful in.
Why is it important for women to help women?
I think the whole concept of women helping women really needs to be further developed in our society. I think that sometimes, you know, you've heard that women haven't always been supportive of other women's advancement, and that always just kind of hurts in a way. And I, you know, we're turning a new dawn. We have a woman running for president. I think a lot more world leaders are women, and that really women are coming into their own, and I think we'll see more women mentoring as we go forward, as we all collectively gain more power. And I really think to be a woman today and in this time is a very exciting time compared to historically looking back.
One of the most heartening things at Women's Initiative is we stay in touch with our graduates for many years. They become part of the fabric of Women's Initiative. In fact, 10% of our staff and trainers are graduates of Women's Initiative, and we have graduates on our boards of directors and they're donors to Women's Initiative. They feel like when they needed someone to support them the most, when they were at a really difficult time in their lives, Women's Initiative went the extra mile, helped them really launch into something where they can be proud and powerful.
No matter where you come from or where you've been, you can achieve. Women like Linda Hodem lead by example and empower low-income women by investing in their potential, knowing that as they succeed, they change their lives and improve their communities.
For more information about Women's Initiative for Self-Employment, please visit www.womensinitiative.org or call 415-641-3460. Stay with us when Everyday Angels returns. Marilyn Nemzer meets a physician who is changing lives.
Ever wonder why Cameron is such a popular baby name in Palo Alto these days? Because grateful women are naming their babies after Dr. Cameron Nijat. I'm Marilyn Nemzer with the story of a pioneering surgeon and innovator who is helping infertile women start families every day. How did it feel to have so much trouble getting pregnant?
You know, I heard that once described as a bruise on your soul, and I think that that is such an accurate description, because it comes to you every time you see a child or you learn that a new loved one is about to give birth. And it's something that while you have control over, in some aspects you don't have complete control over, and you don't really anticipate having the issue. You know, I was very fortunate to have a husband who was supportive and understanding and right there with me during the process. But it really taught me a lot about who I was, who I am, and what was important to me. And I think now it helps me be a better mother, because I always try and remember when I'm about to pull out my hair that I almost wasn't fortunate enough to be in this situation.
Tommy, as you know, she also had many of the same symptoms like everybody else before, that they said everything is okay with her and her husband, but and also they have had failed IVF and other fertility measures. And after she was referred to us, we evaluated her. She did have endometriosis, and of course, after she was treated, thank goodness, successfully, she has had several children.
Well, I had had over a year of unsuccessful fertility treatments, and my husband and I were in the process of moving from Manhattan to California, and my doctor in New York referred me to a reproductive endocrinologist at Stanford who took one look at me and said, I think that you might have endometriosis, which at the time the diagnosis was really a blessing to me because I had spent over a year doing these very challenging and emotional fertility treatments, and everyone said I was fine, that I didn't have any, there was no reason that I shouldn't be getting pregnant, but I felt like there was a reason. So I met this reproductive endocrinologist. He said, you have endometriosis, and I know the doctor who can make you better. And that's how I met Dr. Nijat.
My subspecialty training was infertility and endocrinology. And when I was in training, I noticed that a lot of the major surgeries that we do, it could be simply avoided if we had a couple of other instrumentations and made it easier for the surgeon to perform these procedures without making large incisions in the abdomen.
I had all of this buildup in endometrial lining that hadn't left my body. And basically they were like tiny little chemical factories that made my uterus uninhabitable. So I went through surgery. I ended up having stage 4 endometriosis. And when I woke up, Dr. Nijat was holding my hand and he looked at me and he said, you will be able to have children. 2 months later, I got pregnant with our first daughter. Then I guess my son came 14 months after she was born. Then our second daughter came 16 months after he was born, and now I'm pregnant with our fourth.
To be able to help people, and I enjoy what I do, and I am very grateful that I am able to do that, and that at least makes me to sleep well at night, feeling that I have done something for somebody that day.
You know, it's interesting. You have this path in life, and my husband and I always wanted to have a big family. I never really anticipated having 4 children in 4 years, but now that we're on that path, it's such a blessing. And I look at them and I think, had we not moved to California, had I not met Dr. Nijat, they probably wouldn't be here, which is amazing.
And how do you feel about Dr. Nijat?
I think he is a gift to our life. I think he's a gift to anyone who has the opportunity to meet him and be treated by him. I think he is what all doctors should strive to be.
There are several different projects that I am working on, and one that recently won several awards from different societies, of Society of Laparoendoscopic Surgeons and American Association of Gynecologic Laparoscopies. This technology that we invented is a method called lap cap that goes on the abdomen, and when you want to do technical minimally invasive surgery with your laparoscopy, it avoids injuries to all the vessels in the back of the patient. As the technology advances, we will have more and more opportunities to do surgeries and do telesurgery. So the major advantage of robotic surgery is telesurgery and operating in the space, operating on the submarines and operating, for example, on Alaska or at the Antarctica, areas that are very remote and distant. It is getting there. We are developing, and many companies are developing exciting new technology for telerobotic surgery.
Dr. Nijat is reinventing the way surgical procedures are performed and is making great strides in women's health today.
To find out more about the Center for Special Minimally Invasive Surgery, please visit www.nijat.org or call 650-327-8778. Coming up next on Everyday Angels, Katherine Panetta discovers how wildlife are protected in the Bay Area.
When 58,000 gallons of oil spilled into the San Francisco Bay last November, a very special organization stepped in to clean up the mess for thousands of birds covered in oil. I'm Katherine Panetta here at WildCare, where these birds and many other species of wildlife are cared for, protected, and nursed back to health.
Probably the biggest danger is loss of habitat. That seems to be the #1 threat. As human development spreads out into the wild areas, the wildlife has fewer and fewer places to live. And also I think the separation of people being out in the wild and in nature, that separation also leads to a separation from wildlife and a sense of ownership. So they're more likely to not feel bad about trapping and killing an animal or putting out poisons or not thinking of the wildlife, so that also causes problems.
WildCare is at its core a wildlife hospital or a wildlife rehabilitation center and a nature education center, but it's really a lot more than that. WildCare is a leader in helping people to live well with wildlife, basically.
What is WildCare's mission?
Our mission is to advocate for wildlife for a sustainable future, which sounds great. Basically, we're the voice of wildlife and the environment. In today's world right now, people are trying to get back to nature. They're trying to reconnect, and they're not sure how to do it, so that's where we step in. We're kind of a facilitator.
Well, it's really, really fun, and one of the most fun things about working here is seeing all the animals that people bring in. You see people come through the door and they've got little boxes, and you never know what's in the box. It could be a mouse, or it could be a little baby raccoon or a squirrel or something, and people look frantic when they come through the door. And it's really nice to be able to guide them to the clinic and know that there are people there who can help them, who can take care of the animal and heal the animal, and then everybody feels much better.
We treat between 3,000 and 4,000 animals a year, and over 90% of our patients come to us because of negative human interaction, not always intentional, of course. So caught by cat, hit by car, flew into windows, some patients are shot or poisoned. So those situations are usually what brings the patients to us. Also, a big one is when people prune trees without checking for nests, and they cut down the tree and a nest of babies comes down with it. So a lot of people will put out poisons to